I will never forget the moment I first saw her. I'd walked for hours across the Obsidian Salt Flats, the air shimmering in golden waves that played tricks on my tired eyes. The heat was a searing metal plate against my skin. I was looking for remnants of a lost energy source, something for my research. But what I found was entirely different. Out between jagged rock spires and impossible, uneven mounds, something massive was reflecting the dying sun. I thought it was a mirage, the kind of ghost town or false oasis the desert loves to conjure. But this apparition didn't fade. It remained colossal, firm, and impossible to ignore. As I got closer, sinking my boots into the hot, shifting salt crust, my breath caught in my throat. Lying there was a gigantic woman, half buried, shackled by chains as thick as massive tree trunks. She was over 30 feet tall, maybe more. Her skin was sun-kissed, glowing with a natural radiance that stood in stark contrast to the dust covering her body. She was draped in a fine, tattered fabric, once beautiful. Her dark, massive hair flowed around her like a midnight waterfall. And the most shocking thing of all? She was breathing. Her enormous chest slowly rose and fell, as if she'd been sleeping for centuries. Every breath stirred the grit around her. My heart was pounding up into my throat. I didn't know whether to run or kneel. Who was she, and why in the world was she chained here? But a part of me, that mix of reckless curiosity and compassion that always gets me into trouble, knew I had to act. I walked forward towards the impossible. My name is Rowan Astrofel, and until this moment, my biggest worry was whether my obsolete Geiger counter would hold up another week in the flats. The Obsidian Salt Flats are supposed to be empty, just crystallized waste stretching to the horizon. But here I was, standing before a literal giantess. She was around 30 feet long, maybe more. Her skin had a warm, sun-kissed tone, a natural glow that somehow contrasted with the red dust that covered her. She was wearing a fine, ripped garment that must have been stunning centuries ago. Her dark hair, long like a waterfall of night, pooled around her. I got closer, the salt crunching under my worn leather boots. The chains binding her were unbelievably thick, rusted, and covered in intricate symbols I'd never seen. Symbols that seemed to writhe like snakes in the harsh sunlight. This wasn't just a captive. This felt like something primal, something mythological, trapped here. I could feel a strange, hidden pulse vibrating in the air around her. "Hello," I murmured, my voice immediately swallowed by the vast silence of the flats. She didn't answer, but her eyelids fluttered. A shiver, colder than the deepest winter, ran down my spine. I didn't know who she was or why she was chained, but that familiar mix of empathy and reckless curiosity took over. I just had to help. I approached the massive metal locks. They were enormous, yes, but time is cruel even to the strongest iron. They looked weakened, vulnerable in the right spot. I pulled out a tool from my pack. Not a weapon, but a heavy-duty geological hammer, designed for cracking through ancient rock formations. "Easy now, I'm not going to hurt you," I whispered, not sure if I was trying to convince her or myself. I slammed the hammer against the first shackle. The vibration shot up my entire arm. I hit it harder, aiming for a weak point, and a reddish spark erupted. The chain snapped. The sound echoed through the desolate flats like thunder. Immediately she gasped, a sound that stirred the grit around her. Then her eyes snapped open. I'd never seen anything like them. They were immense, a startling deep emerald, shimmering as if they held entire canyons, storms, and hidden lakes within them. But they were full of confusion and deep fear. Who are you?" she asked. Her voice resonated, not loud, but deep, like the soft echo of a distant mountain range. Despite her size, her tone was incredibly soft, almost sorrowful. "My name is Rowan Astrofel," I replied. "I found you here. I wanted to help you." She stared at me, her huge gaze penetrating. I felt her gaze sweeping through every doubt, every secret, and every intention I held. "Do you know what you've done?" she said, slowly lifting her still shackled hands. Her fingers were long and elegant, though clearly weakened by her long imprisonment. "You shouldn't have broken it." A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. A sudden, cold wind swept across the salt flats, generating a dizzying eddy of dust that engulfed us for a moment. The remaining chains vibrated unnervingly, as if reacting to her awakening. "I was freeing you," I said, the uncertainty evident in my voice. "I thought you were suffering." She tilted her massive head slightly. Her gaze darkened, deepening like an abyssal pool. "I was suffering," she admitted. "But these chains didn't just hold me in place. They held something else too." My palms were instantly slick with sweat and I took a nervous step back. The salt crunched under my heel. "Rowan," she whispered, pronouncing my name as if it were etched into an ancient, forbidden text. You have made a grave mistake. And then, for the first time, I felt the vast emptiness of the Obsidian Salt Flats observing me. The story, I realized with a sickening lurch, had just begun. When I heard those words, the silence that followed descended like a thick, icy shroud. The wind died completely, the dunes stopped shifting, and even the sun seemed to dim. The entire world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her next move. In front of me, the Giantess slowly began to rise. She moved with the awkwardness of someone who has slept far too long. The broken chain links clattered as they slid down her body like metallic snakes, finally defeated. What else were those chains holding back? I asked, my voice barely a whisper even to my own ears. She lowered her gaze, searching for words buried under centuries of silence. Her emerald eyes had darkened further, like a forest sensing an approaching storm. They weren't just a prison for me, she explained. They were a seal, a barrier. Something that locked away a part of me that should never have been awakened. Her admission hit me hard. A dangerous part of her, I instantly suspected. Something impossibly huge, considering the woman before me stood over 30 feet tall. My name is Thalindra, she continued. And though I appear to be a captive, I demanded these chains. I put myself here willingly to protect all of you. I couldn't process it. Why would a massive being voluntarily shackle herself in the middle of nowhere? What kind of threat could she pose with whatever she carried inside? As I struggled to organize my thoughts, Thalindra placed one hand on the salt crust and rose fully. The movement kicked up a huge cloud of dust that danced around us as if celebrating her emergence. Standing, her presence was overwhelming. Her tattered dress fluttered with an almost eerie grace, revealing a colossal form wrapped in melancholic, mysterious beauty. For centuries, she said, her voice now carrying an undeniable weight, I remained asleep to prevent my internal energy from overwhelming the world. My people called it the Animus. It is an ancient, unstable force, a mixture of memory, emotion, and pure raw power. When unleashed, it changes everything it touches. I swallowed hard, my throat dry as the flats. Changes? In what way? Thalindra turned her gaze toward the horizon, where the salt flats spread out like motionless, golden-white waves. I have seen it shatter mountains, divert rivers, and shroud the sky for days, she said. A deep sadness filled her voice. But the worst thing it does is not to the world, she added. The worst thing is what it does to the people around me. I felt a subtle vibration beneath my feet. A faint pulse, like the warning of something enormous moving far beneath the surface. And now, I asked, fear gripping me, that Animus is awake. Thalindra nodded slowly. The moment you broke that first chain, I felt it stir, as if remembering its own existence. She sighed, a deep, earth-moving sound. It isn't unleashed yet, but it's restless, and it will seek a way out, rather than remain sealed within my chest. Guilt, sharp and bitter, rose in my throat. I thought I was rescuing someone. Instead, I might have just unleashed a force buried for millennia. Can we seal it again? I pleaded. There has to be a way. Not without a focus, she replied, her voice heavy. Someone who can channel the Animus, balance its immense weight, and guide it. The last focus died long before these chains were ever forged. The small spark of hope I'd felt vanished. Then we're lost, I whispered. Thalindra bent down toward me, a surprising gentleness in the colossal motion. Her shadow covered my entire body, but in her eyes, I found something unexpected. A spark of calm, a powerful resolve. Not entirely, she said. There is one path. A very small one but real. What is it? I asked, bracing myself. You, Thalindra repeated, her colossal emerald eyes focusing entirely on me, Rowan Astrofel. You are the conduit. I blinked, trying to process the word. Conduit. Channel. Focus. It sounded like something out of a science fiction movie, not something a geologist stuck in the Obsidian Salt Flats was supposed to be. But, I'm just Rowan, I stammered, holding up my dusty, ordinary hands. I'm a researcher. I broke your chain with a hammer. I don't have any powers, ancient blood, or magic rings. Thalindra let out a sound that was half a sigh, half a low rumble of stone. The Animus does not choose based on power or lineage, Rowan. It chooses based on connection. When you broke that first shackle, that simple act of compassion, the Animus, which had been dormant for 3 millennia, recognized something in you. Something that resonated. It's a profound form of resonance. As she spoke, I felt that vibration beneath my feet again, but this time it was stronger, moving from the ground and directly into my chest. It felt like a low-frequency hum trying to synchronize with my own heartbeat. I looked down at my hands. A faint, almost imperceptible golden glow pulsed beneath the grime of my skin. "What is that?" I asked, holding up my trembling fingers. "That is the animus reaching out," Thilindra explained. "It is transferring a small part of its own essence to you. It's the beginning of the bond. You are now the focus that the animus requires to stabilize itself." The implication was terrifying. I was an anchor to an unstable, world-altering force. If I failed, if I broke, if I ran, that power would unleash itself, completely unchecked. "I don't understand the resonance," I confessed. "What did it recognize?" Thilindra slowly lowered her massive head until her face was level with a nearby rock spire, which made my small form feel even smaller. "It recognized the intention behind your action. I am a being of ancient power, capable of immense destruction, which is why I was sealed. The animus is volatile. But you approached me with kindness, not fear. That pure, simple compassion, that is what the animus needs to anchor itself. It requires a gentle hand to guide its wild nature." She extended her hand towards me again, this time gently laying it flat on the salt crust, creating a slight depression. "You have a choice, Rowan," she said. "You can walk away now. You might survive, but the animus will eventually break free of my weakening body, and its release will reshape this continent in a horrifying way. Or you can embrace this, become my conduit, and help me reach the one place where this power can be stabilized, the Nexus of Ethel." The Nexus of Ethel. I knew the name. It was a ruin spoken of in hushed archaeological circles, believed to be the birthplace of a vanished civilization, located hundreds of miles away, high in the treacherous, windswept cinder peaks. It was a journey of weeks, maybe months. I looked from Thilindra's earnest, massive face to the faint golden pulse in my hand. I thought about the world I was leaving behind, my simple, quiet research, my tiny apartment in the city, my life defined by small, solvable problems. That life was gone. I had made a choice the moment I swung the hammer. I couldn't undo the awakening. All I could do was manage the fallout. "The Nexus of Ethel," I stated, my voice finally finding some resolve. "How do we get there?" "It's across 300 miles of uninhabitable territory, and you can't exactly blend in." A small, sad smile touched Thilindra's lips. "Blending in is no longer my priority or yours. We move now quickly. And we will not be walking alone." Before I could ask what she meant, a shadow, not cast by the sun, but something darker and faster, flashed across the flats. The air around us suddenly became metallic and sharp, and I felt a chilling sense of being watched by something deeply hostile. Thilindra's smile vanished. Her gaze shot to the horizon. "They are here," she whispered, the raw fear in her voice unmistakable. "The scribe Malathiel." 3 figures materialized out of the shimmering heat haze, seemingly from nowhere. They were tall, impossibly thin, and draped in flowing gray robes that absorbed the light. They carried no visible weapons, but their presence was pure, cold authority. Their heads were smooth, skull-like, featureless save for 2 small, unsettlingly bright points of icy blue light where eyes should be. "Thilindra, Titan of the Salt," one of them hissed, a voice like dry leaves scraping over cold metal. "Your seal is broken. The animus must be contained immediately. The protocol of eradication is activated." Thilindra shielded me with her massive arm, a movement that felt defensive and protective. "You will not touch the conduit," she commanded. The central figure, presumably the leader of the scribe Malathiel, turned its bright blue points of light toward me. I felt a probe, a cold mental touch, examining me with clinical disgust. "A mortal chosen as a focus?" the scribe Malathiel leader articulated, the voice flat and devoid of emotion. "The animus's desperation is noted. This small infestation must be cleansed. He is the anchor." Thilindra roared, the sound shaking the salt crust beneath us. "His death means the world burns, Scribe Malathiel. He is the stabilizing factor now." "The Scribe Malathiel prioritized galactic order above all else," the leader responded, stepping forward. "The risk of allowing an uncontrolled titan and a volatile mortal to travel is unacceptable. Immediate termination is the only logical solution." This was it. The moment I realized that my well-intentioned act had placed me not just in danger, but squarely in the middle of an ancient war between a massive, benevolent power and a relentless, calculating force of order. My life as a simple researcher was now officially over. Thilindra looked down at me, her eyes pleading. "Rowan, you have to climb up. No. The bond we share must be protected." I looked at the impossibly steep climb up her colossal body, then back at the 3 emotionless alien figures advancing toward us. I didn't hesitate. I scrambled up onto her outstretched hand, grabbing onto her fingers for balance. As I climbed, I felt the golden shimmer on my own hand intensify, reacting to the immediate danger. It was fear, pure and raw, but also a sense of connection, the animus acknowledging the threat. Thylindra was moving. She scooped me up and placed me securely on her shoulder, positioning me behind the high collar of her tattered dress, giving me a precarious but protected vantage point. "Hold on, Rowan," she yelled, her voice vibrating through my bones. With a speed that defied her size, she turned, her massive form churning up the salt flats, and began running toward the distant cinder peaks, our only hope. The chase had begun, and I was holding onto a giantess, clinging to the shoulder of a walking apocalyptic event, trying to outrun 3 alien enforcers in a wasteland. My life had definitely gotten more complicated than just hunting for old mineral samples. I looked back and saw the scribe Malathiel gaining ground, their gray robes oddly undisturbed by the wind, their blue eyes burning with merciless intent. The nexus of Ethel. We had to make it there. The fate of the world literally rested on whether I, Rowan Astrophel, could hold onto Thylindra's collar for a few hundred miles. Clinging to Thylindra's massive shoulder, I felt every jarring step as she thundered across the Obsidian Salt Flats. The sheer scale of the journey was overwhelming. Below us, the flats dissolved into a blur of heat and dust. Behind us, the 3 scribe Malathiel, moving with unnatural efficiency, were relentless. They glided over the uneven terrain, their gray robes fluttering, their blue eyes fixed on us like predators. "They are gaining ground," I shouted, the wind tearing the words from my mouth. "They don't seem to tire." Thylindra didn't slow down. "They don't breathe, Rowan. They are constructs of pure intent. They draw their energy from the cosmic order they serve. They will pursue us until we are stopped, or until we reach the protection of the Nexus." I held on tighter, my knuckles white against the rough fabric of her collar. My fear was still present, but it was being slowly replaced by something else, an awareness of Thylindra. Being this close, anchored to her, the animus that pulsed within her began to affect me profoundly. I started seeing things I hadn't seen before. Flashes. Not just memories but feelings, centuries of deep, aching loneliness, the burden of a choice made long ago, the serene but agonizing knowledge that her existence was a threat to a younger, more fragile world. I felt the immense power of the animus, a volatile, beautiful storm trying to break free, and I felt the monumental willpower Thylindra exerted to keep it contained. "Are you all right, Rowan?" she asked, her voice a deep rumble that vibrated through my chest and ribs. I'm seeing things," I gasped. "Your past. Your fear. It's overwhelming." "That is the resonance intensifying," Thylindra explained, running while speaking, a feat in itself. "The animus is attempting to communicate through memory and emotion. It is bonding you to me. It will not stop. It will not kill you, Rowan, but it will change you. It will transform you. Your mortal mind will have to absorb the chaos of the animus to maintain stability." The transformation she spoke of sounded both terrifying and inevitable. I could feel my priorities shifting, my small human concerns fading against the backdrop of ancient, cosmic duty. I was no longer just Rowan Astrophel, the geologist. I was the conduit. Suddenly, the scribe Malathiel attacked. They didn't use beams or projectiles. They used sound. A high-pitched, crystalline shriek, amplified by the emptiness of the flats, assaulted us. It wasn't just noise, it was an organized wave of pure, painful dissonance designed to shatter mental focus. Thylindra stumbled, clutching her massive head. The mental static. It's designed to disrupt the animus. The moment she lost focus, I felt it. The animus, sensing a momentary lapse in its container, flared. The golden light in my hand, which had been a faint pulse, erupted into a powerful, blinding glow. The heat radiating off my skin was intense. In that instant, I felt the combined power of 3 millennia of memory and raw elemental energy rush into me. It wasn't pain but absolute saturation. I felt the ability to command the salt flats, to turn the shimmering heat haze into a defensive wall of fire. I saw the scribe Malathiel as simple arrangements of non-sentient energy, things I could easily unmake. But then Thylindra's voice, raw and desperate, cut through the mental noise. "Control it, Rowan. You are the focus. Channel the intention, not the power." I focused on her voice, on the image of her face, and the simple act of compassion that started this whole mess. I didn't want to destroy the scribe Malathiel, I just wanted to get us away. I channeled the enormous energy in my hands, not as a weapon, but as a tremendous surge of directed motion. The ground beneath Thylindra's enormous feet exploded. A colossal fissure opened up between us and the scribe Malathiel, spewing up tons of ancient, crystallized salt and rock. It wasn't a deliberate blast, It was an instinctive push of raw energy that changed the immediate landscape. Thylindra used the momentary distraction. She leaped over the chasm I had created, landing hard on the other side, her immense momentum driving her forward. We had gained precious ground. I collapsed onto her shoulder, exhausted, the golden light receding from my hands. I was breathing heavily, sweat pouring down my face. "That was it, Rowan," Thylindra praised, her voice tinged with pride. "You channeled the animus. You used it to serve your will. But you must never draw that much power again until the bond is complete, or it will consume your physical form." I looked back. The scribe Malathiel were regrouping, their featureless heads turning towards the distant cinder peaks, their pursuit undeterred by the massive, smoking chasm. They could fly, I realized with a fresh wave of panic, gliding effortlessly over the fissure. "They know where we're going now," I noted, fear and wonder mixing strangely in my mind. "They know about the Nexus of Ethel." "They have always known," Thylindra replied grimly. "It is the only place in this world with the ability to contain and integrate the animus safely. The only place I can finally find peace, and the only place you can safely complete your duty as the conduit." As we ran, I realized the terrible truth of my predicament. The scribe Malathiel weren't trying to capture Thylindra, they were trying to eliminate the unstable element. They were acting as cosmic cleaners, and I, Rowan Astrofel, was now part of the unstable element. My small human life had been completely absorbed into a conflict of ancient, galactic stakes. We continued our desperate race toward the mountains, the ground shaking with Thylindra's strides. The cinder peaks were now visible on the horizon, massive, jagged, and cloaked in perpetual mist. They looked cold, formidable, and miles away. I knew every step brought me closer to safety, but also closer to a complete, irreversible transformation. I wasn't just saving the world, I was losing myself in the process. I wiped the dust and sweat from my eyes, holding tight to the colossal being beneath me. I was now linked to a power that could change the face of the planet, all because I had chosen compassion over fear. The price of that compassion, I was quickly discovering, was my entire identity. The resonance was now a constant, humming presence inside me, urging me toward the unknown fate waiting at the Nexus of Ethel. The journey to the Cinder Peaks became an endurance test, both physically and mentally. Thylindra's massive strides were eating up the miles, but the scribe Malathiel were always in sight, distant, implacable shadows that gave us no rest. I was perpetually clinging to her shoulder, battered by the wind and the sheer force of her movement. The sun set and rose 3 times during our flight, painting the Obsidian Salt Flats in angry copper hues. But the physical discomfort was nothing compared to the resonance, the growing psychic link that was rapidly merging my mind with the overwhelming reality of the animus. I was now constantly bombarded by Thylindra's ancient memories. I saw the golden age of her people not as giants, but as steward titans who maintained the cosmic balance of planets. I saw her demanding the chains, her face a mask of resolute sorrow, knowing that the animus within her, a vital, powerful core that had grown too unstable, had to be isolated from a young, evolving Earth. She chose imprisonment to prevent global catastrophe, a sacrifice so profound it resonated with the deepest well of hope and despair. "You saw it," Thylindra rumbled, sensing my deep dive into her past. "The imprisonment was my choice, Rowan." The scribe Malathiel simply enforced the isolation. They were not malicious, just absolute in their adherence to the protocol of order. "They're trying to kill us both now," I argued, shielding my eyes as we entered the shadow of the Cinder Peaks. "Because the seal is broken," she replied, her voice heavy with regret. "To them an unsealed animus is a threat. A threat must be neutralized. Their function is absolute zero tolerance." The Cinder Peaks rose up before us, a vast, vertical wilderness of black volcanic rock. The air immediately grew cold, sharp with the smell of sulfur and ancient stone. The wind was a howling banshee, threatening to tear me from my precarious perch. "The Nexus is inside that central spire," Thylindra pointed out, indicating a massive, needle-like peak that seemed to pierce the turbulent clouds. "It's a natural geode of concentrated stabilizing energy. We must reach its core chamber." As we started the ascent, the scribe Malathiel changed tactics. They stopped chasing us across the flats and began scaling the rock face with terrifying agility, moving like spiders across the jagged cliffs. They were cutting off our access points, forcing Thylindra toward the most perilous paths. Suddenly, the lead scribe Malathiel, the one I had designated as the leader, detached itself and floated toward us. Its blue light eyes fixed on me, the mortal focus. "Stop, Conduit Rowan Astrofel," the scribe Malathiel articulated, its metallic voice echoing off the rock. Your bond is incomplete. The Titaness is still unstable. We offer you one final choice: detach from her now. We will neutralize her quickly, and you will be returned to your original point of entry, unharmed. The temptation was strong. An unharmed return to my old life? It was everything I had lost. I could almost smell the dust of my small apartment. But then the animus pulsed inside me, a sudden deep throb of Thalindra's fear, her utter reliance on me. The thought of abandoning her, of consigning this monumental being to annihilation after she had sacrificed everything, was unthinkable. The resonance had changed me. My loyalty was no longer just a choice, it was an integral part of my being. "No deal, Scribe Malathiel," I shouted, my voice hoarse against the wind. "You want order? I am the new order." I stabilized the animus. The Scribe Malathiel paused, its head tilting slightly, a gesture that conveyed cold analysis. "Then you are a variable we must eliminate." It raised one thin gray arm. Instead of a weapon, it projected a field of focused, destabilizing energy directly at Thalindra's massive ankle. The energy was not physical but targeted the very structure of her containment. Thalindra let out a cry of pain, a sound of monumental agony that caused small avalanches on the surrounding peaks. She stumbled, dropping to one knee. The impact was enough to violently shake me from her shoulder. I tumbled down the steep rock face. My grip slipped and I plunged into a terrifying freefall. This is it, I thought, the ground rushing up at me. I broke the chain and now I'm broken. But just as the jagged rocks were about to claim me, the animus reacted. Not Thalindra but the power that was now part of me. My hands, glowing with a powerful incandescent gold, shot out. I didn't stop my fall. Instead, I used the animus to command the air currents, creating a localized pocket of immense density, a cushion of solid, resisting air that cushioned my descent just enough to allow me to crash land onto a narrow, snow-dusted ledge instead of being pulverized by the rocks below. I was shaken, bruised, and gasping for air. But alive. And for the first time I was separated from Thalindra. She saw me fall. Her face, framed against the sheer rock, was contorted with panic. "Rowan. No." The Scribe Malathiel leader seized the opportunity. "The conduit is isolated. Protocol: proceed with immediate neutralization of the Titaness." The two other Scribe Malathiel, who had been climbing, now launched themselves at Thalindra. The attack was swift, coordinated, and utterly merciless. They projected those same destabilizing energy fields onto her chest, directly targeting the animus. Thalindra screamed, the sound echoing through the canyons. The gold light around her flickered violently, struggling to hold the chaos within. She was weakening rapidly. I knew with absolute certainty that if I didn't rejoin her, the animus would break free, and not in a contained way. It would be a catastrophic eruption that would scour the cinder peaks off the map. From the ledge, I could see the entrance to the Nexus of Ethel, a massive, naturally carved archway glowing with a soft, ethereal blue light. It was maybe 50 yards away, but across a lethal ravine. I had to get back to Thalindra. I had to get her to that Nexus. I channeled the animus again, focusing on sheer, directed will. I looked at the three advancing Scribe Malathiel, those cold, heartless entities, and my heart filled with a fierce, protective rage. They had underestimated the power of the resonance. With a surge of energy that felt like lightning ripping through my veins, I commanded the rock itself. The narrow ledge beneath my feet began to grow, extending outward like a massive organic bridge, spanning the ravine toward Thalindra. It was crude, unstable, but fast. "Thalindra. The Nexus." I screamed, sprinting across the rapidly forming stone bridge. She saw the bridge, saw me running toward her, and summoned the last of her energy. She used her massive arms to push the two Scribe Malathiel away, sending them spiraling into the ravine below. As I reached her, the lead Scribe Malathiel charged. It was an impossible final stand. Thalindra, weakened and focused on getting us both to the Nexus, couldn't stop it. I didn't think. I leaped onto Thalindra's back, grabbing a new handhold, and as the Scribe Malathiel closed the final gap, I channeled the animus into a powerful, focused burst. I didn't try to destroy the creature, but to momentarily freeze it, to render its cold, ordered energy inert. The Scribe Malathiel instantly stopped, suspended mid-air, its blue eyes flickering wildly. "Go, Thalindra. Go." With renewed strength, she hurled her massive body through the Nexus archway, crashing into the inner sanctum. I held on tight as we tumbled into the blue, stabilizing light. We made it, but the price of that final, powerful animus surge, I realized, was yet to be paid. We tumbled through the blue, shimmering entrance of the Nexus of Ethel. The world went from the harsh, cold reality of the cinder peaks to a place of profound, humming silence. We landed on a floor of polished, luminous crystal. The chamber was enormous, a natural geode where the walls glowed with patterns of stabilizing blue energy. It felt like stepping into the heart of the world. Thylindra, exhausted and reeling from the scribe Malathiel's attack, collapsed. The immense weight of her body made the crystal floor groan, but the structure held. Her golden light, the animus, was flickering erratically, dangerously close to an explosive release. Roan, the core, she whispered, her voice weak and strained. The center of the chamber. You must complete the resonance. Now. I didn't need to ask where. I could feel the nexus core, a blinding, spinning vortex of blue energy at the center of the crystal floor, pulling at the golden light in my hands, seeking to draw the chaos out of Thylindra. I rushed forward, my small mortal form dwarfed by the chamber, driven by a destiny I had accidentally unleashed. I could still hear the frantic metallic scraping of the scribe Malathiel trying to force their way through the sealed nexus entrance. We had seconds. As I approached the blue vortex, the golden light in my own body intensified to a blinding supernova. This was the final total surrender to the animus. I felt the last shreds of my old self, Rowan Astrophel the geologist, dissolving, replaced by the stability, wisdom, and eternal knowledge of the conduit. I thrust my hands into the swirling blue light. The two energies, the chaotic golden animus from Thylindra and the calming blue stabilizer from the nexus, met and clashed inside me. For a moment, I was pure light and sound, pain and epiphany. I was standing in the center of a cosmic storm, feeling the power that shattered mountains and knowing the sorrow of its sacrifice. Then, with a gentle, profound click, the resonance completed. The animus settled. It didn't vanish, it simply integrated. I was now the living, breathing anchor for the immense, beautiful power. The golden light faded from my hands, replaced by a permanent, deep resonance, a quiet, powerful hum within my chest. I felt complete but irrevocably changed. I was still Rowan, but I was also the eternal focus. I turned back to Thylindra. She was lying still, the golden light finally gone from her massive frame. Her chest rose and fell with a calm, deep rhythm. The terror and strain were gone from her eyes, replaced by an expression of deep, centuries-long peace. She slowly pushed herself up, her emerald eyes fixed on me. You did it, Rowan. The animus is stable. It is bound to you. The world is safe. I felt a surge of pride, tinged with melancholy. What happens now? Thylindra smiled, a smile of genuine relief that seemed to warm the entire chamber. The scribe Malathiel will sense the change. The threat is gone, the protocol will be suspended. They will leave us. As if on cue, the frantic noise at the nexus entrance faded entirely. She reached out her massive hand, a gesture of profound respect and affection, and gently placed it on the crystal floor, supporting her weight. You are the focus, Rowan, she said. I can finally rest. But our journey isn't over. My purpose was to contain the animus. Yours is to guide it, to carry it. The world still needs its gentle hand, even if it doesn't know it. I walked toward her, looking at my hands, no longer glowing but feeling impossibly strong and steady. I can't go back to my normal life, I said, a faint, resolute smile on my face. My old life felt impossibly distant, irrelevant. Thylindra returned my smile, warm and impossibly kind. No, but you will not walk this new path alone. She motioned with her hand, indicating that I should climb aboard. I looked at her massive form, then at the eternal blue light core of the nexus, and finally at my own steady hand. The transformation was complete. I stepped forward, knowing that some stories don't choose you, they find you. I climbed into her hand. Together, the Titaness Thylindra and her mortal conduit, Rowan Astrophel, rose and exited the nexus of Ethel, stepping out onto the cinder peaks, ready for the next phase of a very long, very complicated adventure. If this story of compassion, cosmic duty, and terrifying transformation hooked you, and I hope it did, then you know what to do. Please show your support by hitting that like button. Every single like helps us tell more epic stories like this one. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss where Thylindra and Rowan go next. Until the next adventure, stay safe, stay curious, and may your paths be guided by compassion. Good luck out there.